When I first came here, we were, a hippie, back to nature, self-sufficient thing. We were watching too many Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone movies, and reading too much Thoreau. We were trying to seek a different vision. The first time I saw bean collections and so on, it was like, whoo, a jewelry store lit up, and I've always just been dazzled by diversity. I don't like people that are all straight, all gay, all communist, all Christian. Let them all be there, and absolutely the different kinds of seeds. My great-grandfather was a farmer. Looking through our family photo album, I just wish that I could somehow step into that photo, say, hi, great-grandma, that's me, Billy, and can I have some of these? And because I know for a fact that 90-something% of the things are now extinct. They're my family, and they're gone. I have this horrible vision someday that the Creator would look down on you, come look around and say, well, where is this? Well, where did that go? I created this. Where did it go? How come it's not here? I see myself as Noah, not God. Noah didn't get to decide whether the crocodiles came on the ark or not, or the black flies. His job was to load them on, okay? That's my job. I have thousands of varieties that I'm maintaining. People of the future, plant breeders and gardeners, they will decide, what the heck did Will save that for? I don't get to make that decision. My job is to keep these all on the ark, keep them alive for 40 days and 40 nights until the flood's over. I may discover 10 years from now that seed will be in huge demand because it has in its genes some resistance to some disease which is only now evolving. In many, many cases, what I've got is not available anywhere else.
He's my sweetheart.
The year that I fail to grow a variety is the year it is lost to me. And in some cases, perhaps lost to the planet. Some of these things are right on the edge of extinction. We have this collection of several hundred potato varieties. Potatoes that are purple or black skin with yellow flesh, some with purple skin, hot pink streaks in them. We have in the collection is a variety of lumpers. Most of the Irish in the 1830s and 40s were growing lumpers. Big yielder. And none of those varieties had any resistance to late blight. This is the potato that killed 1 million Irishmen, because of the fact that there were 1 or 2 or 3 varieties that were totally vulnerable. This is the variety that explains why O is the biggest section of the South Boston phone directory. Genetic diversity is the hedge between us and global famine.
Diversity in our seed stocks is as endangered as a panda or a golden eagle or a polar bear right now. We have the largest seed shortage in history.
There's this beautiful dance between the plant and the humans that find each other and make a culture possible. In Mesoamerica, over 10,000 years ago, corn found humans and humans found corn.
Corn really is this beautiful co-creation between plants and humans. The domestication of corn was centered in the Oaxacan Valley of Mexico. The incredible evolutionary leaps that we took with corn is a miracle. It ignited the sacred connection that we had with seeds. Corn seeds moved along the entire spine of the Americas. It became this revolution. It became this new way of being able to feed ourselves.
It's what fueled you from a small tribe to an empire. Spies and traders and anyone who was around and saw what it was doing grabbed a handful and took off. It took 4,700 years to get it to the U.S. border. Then, about 1,000 years ago, corn is everywhere in what we now call the United States.
Corn becomes so elastic and adaptive that now we see corn being grown on every continent.
As keepers of the corn has come up with us through our migrations, sustaining us. Our first mothers were the blue corn and white corn woman. This is my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my kids, my grandkids, and myself. We all are one.
My father said, "Son, never let go of the corn. When I pass on, carry on the way of the corn." I've always been a farmer all my life. From the day that I can remember, I was out there with my grandparents, my uncles, and my father. The spiritual people gave us the corn. They say when the corn hears you, then they start dancing with you with the leaves fluttering. Crow damage, but we still bring it in. Everything is brought in. People are too attracted to the big and beautiful, but the Hopi women and men say that even this little one here is special because every corn seed has life. Everything is special. And I'll plant these.
Yeah.
I'll plant this. We don't throw them away.
Wow.
We take care of them. In the womb, human people are seeds. We see the seeds being planted into the womb of the Mother Earth. They may be calling me Daddy and say, "Daddy, I'm glad I'm here with you, because these are my children."
Indian people, we talk in one language, the language of the seeds. The most important thing in my heart is taking seeds anywhere I can go. And my grandfather told me one time, this is very important for life. And he put me before he died. Before he died, he put me held full of the seeds in my hand, and he said, "This is life." And put always in your pocket, because if you have seeds in your pocket, you can walk and you can eat the seeds. But if you have money, you cannot eat the money. This is gold. Seeds, they are our own medicine. When we have to eat, we give a little bit to the earth. I am working now for 7 years in the Suki Pueblo. We lost our seeds, we lost our food. But when you're losing the seeds, you're losing completely your traditional ways of eating. I bring some of the crops to these Pueblo people. Quinoa, amaranth, the lost crop of the Incas. It's part of this prophecy, the condor and the eagle. Exchanging seeds, exchanging knowledge. In all these bags you see, we have different type of the seeds. This salary was no one seed. 7 years, we fill up with our work, with our sweat. And this is food for the future. The seeds, they are not very happy because they are one in the top of the other one. They are beginning to tell us we need a new house, a place where they can have a home like us.
Native Seed Search is a seed bank.
Most of the seeds came to us through Native Americans. As modern creatures, we're in debt to that. They were the last expression of these stewards going back thousands of years that took care of these things in nature that we got them. I had somebody the other day call this Fort Knox. There's just so much wealth in here. It's about 2,000 different varieties of invaluable agricultural crops. All 38 generations, all this energy comes down into the seed, you get a hold of it, and then all the future and the millions more that can come out goes out. And you're at that point when you hold those seeds in your hands. Right here is the mother corn. This is the ancient ancestor from which all corn came. And that's what we're losing. I mean, we just don't have the time left, again, on this small planet to recreate all this stuff. That's why it's so invaluable. Once it's gone, it's gone. Seeds are living embryos. They do have a lifespan. We try to grow everything out every 10 years. That's why we have the 60-acre farm here.
We are hugely vulnerable with all of those seeds. You think about crimes against humanity, blow up a seed bank in war. It becomes an immediate target to weaken a country.
When we invaded Iraq, we destroyed that seed bank, and we destroyed that garden, and we destroyed that repository of the great ancient seeds that had been collected by that government for the benefit of mankind.
During World War II, Hitler was aiming to conquer Nikolai Vavilov's seed bank in St. Petersburg. and the people associated with that seed bank hold themselves up in the building and kept those seeds protected, even though they were starving to death and missiles and bombs were landing all around them.
I remember gardening with these little hands. Now they have gardens of their own and children of their own. If there's no one to pass that seed on to, that living link and that living seed is lost. These are Grandpa Ott's morning glories, the seed that started the whole movement. When we started Seed Savers in the 70s, we didn't have anything. We just had an idea and a dream. So we had thousands of beans in my living room. It was now our responsibility to keep all those bean varieties alive. What we've saved over those years is irreplaceable. And if we hadn't started then, we would have lost a lot more. It's always amazing to me when we started out with 2 varieties of seed, and now I'm here looking at over 24,000 accessions of seed that we're permanently maintaining at the seed vault. All of our seeds are in airtight foil packs, so they're not maintaining any moisture. We also store a backup collection at the seed vault off the coast of Norway at Svalbard.
Svalbard has been called the Doomsday Seed Vault. The idea is that if one of these asteroids hits and causes a tsunami that wipes out a part of the world, or there's catastrophic cultural and economic collapse, we see all the seed banks in the world looted just for food. The idea was to have a backup, like the ultimate backup, just in case this seed bank is destroyed and they need their seeds back. But the problem with it is that we think that we don't have to worry about this now. It gives a false sense of security.
All the gene banks, they are all arcs. Ultimately, life does not go on an arc. I'm not confident that any of us have got something long-term in place that can weather the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that might come our way.
We're now facing severity of climate change, the most radical we've had since the last ice age. This is happening at an unprecedented rate, and it's putting pressure on the diversity of life forms.
This is the driest they have seen since 119 years.
The Golden State's drought, the worst in over 1,000 years.
In northern New Mexico, we had a series of drier and drier years. Normally, this time of the year, we're going to get ready for planting, but where there's not any moisture, usually you'll hit a wet spot. A lot of the animals begin to feel the effects of the drought. They consume probably about 1/3 of our corn and all of our beans, so it's tough for everybody.
Our corn is among the few places that is environmentally adapted to drought. The Hopi grow corn with no irrigation. All of our ceremonies are for rain. You petition the clouds to come and bless us. We say in our prayers, may the cloud people come. May the Kachina people come and visit us and bring us rain. May the corn grow up and produce their young ones. You never lose faith in the cloud people. This is a way that my prayers have been answered. One day, our corn will become very, very valuable to human survival.
I was very, very fortunate when I was a child. There was a fantastic tree. My tree began from a tiny little seed. And I spent hours and hours up in the branches of that tree. And how magic that it could actually grow into a big tree. That tree is still in the garden today. Seeds are so crafty. There is a power, it's a magic. To me, it's magic. It's a life force so strong. There are seeds that rely on fire. There are seeds that tangle up in the hair of an animal. They get carried for miles. There are seeds that can't germinate unless they pass through the gut of an animal. Darwin was amazed that a seed grew after it had been 21 hours in the stomach of an owl.
A seed is a doorway between the life of the old plant and its gift to the new plant. Our teachers are the plants, and they're teaching us that they have to sacrifice themselves in order to be able to give something to the next generation. It's a form of reincarnation.
Come on in. Hello, hello. Come on in. Welcome to my humble abode.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Check it out. Check it out. This is how we roll. That's why they call me the corn.
Turn this damn
They
thing
call
on.
me the corn hippie.
Gosh, this is unbelievable.
There's so much corn here. I mean, right here in these bags right here, this one has 87
oh my gosh, what in the hell is
87 different kinds of corn from Urubamba Valley.
Oh my gosh.
This is from the Sacred Valley. We get certified with a phytosanitary from the Peruvian government, and once we get it certified, then we're ready to ship it wherever we want to send it.
Pete's, that's astounding. Look at that fava.
For all the crazy people like me who sit there at night and look at bags of beans, it leaves us a mystery.
This is so precious. No one even has an idea how much this. They're like jewels. They look like polished agates. Look at this one.
Must be artistic genius of nature that allows this to happen.
I gotta sleep with this on.
When I was 6 years old, my parents asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said, well, I want squash. I didn't want a G.I. Joe, and I didn't want a baseball bat. I wanted squash. And I wanted those because I wanted to save the seeds and grow them.
My seeds are my kitchen table. My seeds are my way of sharing food with people all over the world. I've been to over 100 countries, collecting thousands and thousands of seeds. Here from Bolivia, looking like a speckled robin's egg. This bean here from Tanzania. One that's coming from Zimbabwe. Variety raised by the West Virginia hillbillies. And this exquisitely sculptured seed of a trichosanthes gourd from Vietnam. The seed is a time capsule. It's preserving things from the past, but it's also bringing things for the future. And this is, I feel I have an obligation to the world, whether that's unbalanced or not, to bring this appreciation to as big a swath of humanity as possible. This tiny little skinny tree with really large leaves is in the cacao family, same plants that produce chocolate, and this is just a distant relative of cacao that still hasn't been commercialized. What if there's all kinds of other seeds in nature that have the potential for food production?
Way down there. Feel the end of it?
Yeah. Can you hold them? This is what we just harvested.
You know that these have been known to make grown men scream. They say you can have a fever for several days if they bite.
Where is it, right here?
Okay, this is called picharinia, and it's for being used on cuts and sores, and it almost has the look of iodine.
There's about 300,000 species of plants on the planet. We come down to 30,000 different edible plants.
Put them in your mouth like this, just kind of suck on them and...
120 are used on a really regular basis. And most of humanity subsist on a mere 10. Beans, corn, wheat, barley, and rice. Virtually nothing compared to the bigger picture. We should put particular attention to the seeds of wild plants and figure out how we can get those into cultivation, because they're part of the biodiversity heritage that will feed the world.
Take them out of there, Patrick.
Here's a good one.
So we're getting a meal on a wild plant here, dolly dolly, which is one of the finest roots in the world to eat. Top chefs would go crazy over dolly dolly.
So
absolutely crazy over it.
Grow it more.
Back in 1700s, Thomas Jefferson wanted to get seeds of risotto rice. And it was thanks to slyness that he was able to carry out some of this contraband seed and raise it near Monticello in the New World.
To feed this expanding continent that immigrants were streaming into, we needed a diversification of food crops. In the 1890s, of over 1 billion packets of seed were distributed for free to farmers around the country. The American Seed Trade Association hired the very first lobbyist to stop the federal seed giveaway, as they called it. They saw seed as a commodity, something that could be quantified, measured, bought, sold, and traded on stock markets, just a number on a spreadsheet. By 1924, the federal government seed program would cease.
These great industrialists said the only way we can really make profit on American agriculture is to invent a seed that they can't save.
And that gave birth to the hybrid seed industry.
Hybrids were bigger and better, produces more. Success is yield. Hybrid companies fueled that fever to get the biggest and the best. Corn contests was rampant throughout the Midwest. You were measured not by how many times you went to church. It was how good a corn you grew. Everybody was winning that had hybrid corn. If you save the seeds from a hybrid and plant it again, you get what I call Mr. Toad's wild ride. Recessive genes that were hidden in the parents express themselves again. This is like the grandparents, the grandkids start coming out with all sorts of weird traits.
A little more like the mom, a little more like the dad, like old Uncle Harry. Farmers took it for granted that we go to a shelf in the store to buy our seeds. A profound change, because seed is the beginning of all of it. If you're relying on someone else for your seed, then it's like you're relying for someone else on your soul or something. This is where it all starts. To not control that part of it is a major abdication of control and responsibility, and yet we did it wholesale.
It destroyed the natural seed banks and the seed practices of the farmers. Hybrid corn was the atom bomb of agriculture.
Right after the Second World War, the Green Revolution starts in Mexico. When you hear about the Green Revolution, people sometimes think, well, that's about windmills and, tofu-powered sandals or whatever it is. The green in the Green Revolution was never about environmental consciousness. The green was meant to be the opposite of a red revolution. The visions of the Rockefeller Foundation kicked off the Green Revolution to provide cheap food so that people would remain capitalists and would not riot and become communists. This is about developing kinds of seed that matter for large-scale commercial farmers wherever they are. The Green Revolution was taking this rich knowledge of peasant farming that evolved over millennia and tossing it into the dustbin of history, replacing it with modern industrial agriculture. All of a sudden, men in white coats become the champions and the sole arbiters of knowledge about seeds globally.
Seeds of the Green Revolution, what I call the miracle varieties, they were bred for taking up more chemicals. The hungry industry of war chemicals, wanting to deploy these chemicals as agri-chemicals, trying to push chemicals into agriculture.
90% of the seed that we use to grow our food is owned by chemical companies, by pesticide and pharmaceutical companies. Now there's a huge conflict of interest. When the chemical companies own the seeds, they not only want you dependent on the seed as a farmer, but they also want you dependent on their chemicals. We use 80 million pounds a year of atrazine just in the U.S. Atrazine is demasculinizing frogs and fish. It can completely cause males to develop into females. Atrazine leads to promoting breast cancer. It's associated with miscarriages and birth defects. We should have learned this lesson way back with DDT. And we're just learning it over and over and over and over and over again. The big concerns are cancers that pesticides are associated with. My whole entry into this area was because of atrazine. The actual manufacturer hired me to look at atrazine. The artist told me I couldn't talk to people about my research, and I couldn't publish it, and I couldn't write it. And I thought, what do you mean? Then they started trying to manipulate data. And that's when I realized I've helped the chemical industry keep this chemical in the market that I know is bad, and go home to my wife and kids, go, oh, guess what I did today? I did a study that confused all the sciences, and now people don't know that this chemical's bad. Novartis and Syngenta spent millions fighting me. When you look at Novartis and Syngenta's strategy, the first thing they say is discredit Hayes. When they couldn't prove my science was bad, they wrote down a checklist of things they were going to do to me, to hurt my students, to investigate my wife. And they actually wrote it down. The first page in the Secret Spy Evil Handbook is, don't write it down or you eat it or it's self-destruct, right? I do everything that I can in the position that I'm in. You know what some of the dangers are. Being an academic and speaking out for what's right. We all have to do it.
live in the most self-sustainable place on earth. We can grow any plant from koke'e to hanale. It's such a cycle of life around here with the ocean and the land. Hawaiians knew from the beginning of time. Our whole world revolves around aloha aina, giving back to the land because the land gives to us.
Native Hawaiians had this incredible agricultural system able to sustain 3 times today's population. In the 1800s, plantation agriculture happened in Hawaii. And what you see is private land ownership happening in Hawaii. The original missionary families are still the primary private landowners. The descendants of the original missionaries opened up the first sugarcane plantations. The last sugarcane mill closed down 8 years ago, and in its place, biotechnological seed companies came in and took over agriculture. They say sugar ruled. Hawaii, sugar was king. Well, now I would say the biotech industry, these chemical corporations are king in Hawaii. I live in a community that consists of pure native Hawaiian native speakers. I've waited for an opportunity to own my own home, and not just own my own home, but a space as a single mother to raise my children. Many Hawaiians die waiting for their opportunity at a Hawaiian homestead. I moved out here. At the time, sugar was just moving out and the fields around us were fallow. I started to see different fields pop up that I've never seen before. It alarmed me. I had no idea what was happening, what was taking the place of sugar. Then I started to experience very bad allergies, migraines, and illnesses, just not being able to get over colds. My doctor said, "Oh, you have full-blown adult asthma." When I started to see that the farmers were spraying pesticides, they are spraying things at night while we're sleeping. My 2 daughters wake up with blood-soaked pillows. There's hundreds and hundreds of acres where these chemical corporations test their seed. 18 tons of restricted pesticides being dumped right next to schools and neighborhoods.
I'm a teacher at Waimea Canyon Middle School for the past 18 years. There's ag lands adjacent to our campus. It is literally 100 yards upwind of our school. That's the field that they were spraying, and we can actually feel the mist. I contacted Syngenta and said, we believe that drift is occurring. During PE, a cloud of gases came over them and kids just started dropping. There was chaos on campus. It was horrific. There wasn't enough room in the health room. About 140 children were seeking assistance. There was this effort by administrators and politicians to whitewash it over. And immediately in the newspaper, school evacuated because of stinkweed. And that became the specious explanation. That became the story. Teachers came together and stood up. Stop poisoning our children.
Monsanto, Dow, DuPont in Hawaii and elsewhere, they've got a blank check to experiment with any kind of chemical they want on these test plots. You've got the most toxic insecticide virtually unregulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
The seed companies, the chemical companies, especially Monsanto, use every means of control to manipulate our government and other governments. They pour huge amounts of money into political campaigns. They pour huge amounts of money into lobbying. They have many of their own people embedded in the key decision-making roles in the U.S. government.
In 1992, the approval of genetically engineered crops was done by Michael Taylor, who was a lawyer from Monsanto and went right from Monsanto to working for the government. Tom Vilsack, who was named the Biotechnology Industrial Organization's Governor of the Year. His law firm defended Monsanto in the Supreme Court, and he became a Secretary of Agriculture. Here you have somebody who's in control of agricultural policy, absolutely linked to the hip to the biotechnology industry and to Monsanto's interests. The revolving door between Monsanto and government is going so fast, it's almost dizzying.
The corporations, they said, we want to really own these seeds. We want patents on life. It was fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. It was a 5-4 decision with Clarence Thomas and that lead of the 5 saying, yes, you can patent seeds, you can patent life. Very few people know, but Clarence Thomas was a Monsanto lawyer.
When I first heard about the idea of patenting a seed or any kind of plant, I was absolutely horrified, and I thought, surely that'll never be allowed. You can't own nature.
Under Section 101 of the Patent Act, which defines what can be patented in the United States, you can only patent a machine, a manufacturer, or an inventor's composition of matter. And I fail to see how a seed can be either of those. Monsanto takes one gene out of tens of thousands of genes, changes that and says, no, now we own the whole plant. It's one of the most extraordinary giveaways, giving corporations the natural reproduction of all life forms, saying you can make a profit on every one of those reproductions. So they don't just own the seeds. They own all of the offspring of those seeds and patent them forever.
The threat is there by conglomerates to patent our seeds. Legally saying they own it because they're the first to patent it. We're the custodians of this knowledge in the corn, and how dare others take it away?
Once these corns get contaminated, there's no way you can breed it out. The only safe thing to do is actually incinerate. You know, I wouldn't feed it to animals. I wouldn't compost it because it's in the DNA. It's an abuse to seeds and to us as indigenous people.
With the GMO seeds that are out there, we need to protect our seeds. We need to save our seeds. And we need to plant them for the survival of our communities and survival of our mom.
Our people know that where there is wild rice, there are Anishinaabe. It is our most sacred food. We have harvested this rice for thousands of years. This wild rice doesn't grow anywhere else in the world. We engaged in a battle with the corporations and with the University of Minnesota. The University of Minnesota wanted to genetically engineer wild rice. We were very concerned that would potentially contaminate our wild rice. So we fought them. The first opposition witness out of the gate for 3 years in a row was Monsanto. They came out every time we testified, and they said that if the Ojibwe were able to stop the genetic engineering of wild rice, it would send a chilling message to the biotech industry. When they go and they take the dignity of that food from you and turn it into something else, it is offensive, it hurts our people, it hurts us economically, and it hurts us spiritually. Wild should mean something. And I would assume that that would mean not genetically engineered.
Genetically modified plants. It's doing something which isn't natural in the plant world. Genes from a completely different species are being introduced into these plants, and the plant fights. The plant is not happy to receive an alien species.
You can put a pig in a room with a tomato, and you can turn the lights down low and play some nice music and serve some wine. But no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get the pig to mate with the tomato. But the genetic engineers can take genes from the pig and force it into the tomato. They've taken genes from spiders and put it into goats. They've taken human genes and put it into rice and corn. They're eliminating the natural species barriers and, in a sense, playing God.
You shoot gold particles laden with genes, but it's a very unreliable process, so you also have to add antibiotic resistance markers. You also have to add viral promoters, and every genetically engineered seed is a bundle of bacteria, toxins, viral promoters. As we remove the barriers between species, mixing these genes and viruses, the threshold also gets broken for the spread of new infectious diseases.
A genetically modified seed is the sorcerer's apprentice. We have the capacity to start all this stuff, but we don't have the capacity to stop it. And when we manipulate a species, there's a kind of hubris that we will pay for.
You can't see the difference between genetically engineered corn and non-genetically engineered corn. This is not seeable by a consumer. Independent scientists were beginning to see indications that consuming genetically engineered foods could have kidney and liver damage. We're seeing possible reproductive issues in laboratory animals. These are peer-reviewed science. Now we're beginning to see problems that could come from them. Wheat was the holy grail for companies like Monsanto. If they could have had all the wheat in the United States be genetically engineered, that was really the holy grail.
Monsanto had spent 10 years developing the genetic modified wheat. Wheat farmers decided we did not want them to release a genetically modified wheat. We said, no, we're not doing that. We don't have to take the chance to fool with the genetic modified plants. And we said, no, we don't want it, and now we've got it.
We thought this had been put to bed. We thought those wheat seeds had been destroyed. Apparently not.
The Department of Agriculture have told us, don't worry, we can keep these seed trials confined. And time again, they have failed to do so, and they have escaped.
Once you take that stuff out of the laboratory, there's 1,000 things that can go wrong that lets that seed get away.
As far as a duck can fly, they eat seed and they excrete that seed, and that seed grows in a place where it wasn't intended. You can't pull it back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
International wheat markets shut down for months. That cost farmers hundreds of millions of dollars. When USDA opened an investigation, they've never been able to discover how the genetically engineered wheat got in the farmer's field.
We're fooling with Mother Nature in a way that, quite frankly, may end up not being near as rosy of a panacea as these seed companies want to point out. If our wheat is contaminated, I'm out of business.
In 1998, we were just beginning harvesting canola in the middle of August. My neighbor had grown GMO canola, and our fields were contaminated. And the bus station phoned up, and I thought, that's unusual. And they said, there's a parcel here for you. And later on that evening, open it, here's a lawsuit from Monsanto. And I didn't think much of it. Oh, what's this? Patent infringement? I didn't even know what that was. Our family lawyer looked at me and said, Chrissy, I think you're in trouble. I said, what for? Well, he said, they're charging you that you have their GMO seeds. And I said, what are GMO seeds? The judge stated that it does not matter how you're contaminated. You violate the patent, and you no longer own your seeds. That right should never be taken away from a farmer. You're taking seed that has been there for thousands of years and put a patent on it and say you own it. Basically, it's robbery. To me, that's really a violation of human rights.
Henry Kissinger said, if you want to control a country, control the oil. If you want to control a people, control the food. Vandana Shiva says, if you want to control the food, control the seed.
When seed started to become a patented property sold by corporations, you destroy seed freedom. When a company as powerful as Monsanto enters a country, it starts to control that country's decision-making. Monsanto started to buy up Indian seed companies. 60 Indian seed companies can only sell Monsanto seeds. The companies will take video vans into the villages. They had every Indian epic, and they would very cleverly sell the seeds. So Hanuman is carrying white gold, the seeds of Monsanto. So when Hanuman comes as a salesman of Monsanto, they believe in them. So that was the first strand through which they took over. Then they also told the farmer, why are you using these old seeds? Sell them to us. A farmer has always had seed. And a farmer would say, oh, they're giving me some money for the seed. I'll just get it from my neighbor tomorrow. Not realizing the neighbor has also been approached in the same way, and the next village, and the next village. In one season, this thing they call seed replacement has destroyed the entire native seed supply. You have a seed dictatorship established. Then the farmer can't get out. Farmers will be forced to come back to buy seed every year. We could have very, very large-scale famine, but unlike all famines of the past, no resurrection. Because every famine of the past, seed was always there. This time's famine will be based on a seed famine. What this free trade system has given us is, instead of seed being of the farmers, by the farmers, for the farmers and all citizens, It is now seed for the corporations, by the corporations, of the corporations.
NAFTA will create the world's largest trade zone and create 200,000 jobs in this country.
When NAFTA was introduced between the United States and Mexico, all of a sudden, the U.S. was selling subsidized corn into Mexico that was below the cost of production in Mexico, forcing a couple of million farmers off their land. We planted the seeds of that migration.
A lot of that corn is contaminated with transgenics. We are destroying the basis of the world's agriculture.
Oaxaca is the region of Mexico where subsistence agriculture holds on. The subsistence agriculture is slowly being phased out. But if that agriculture is gone, we have lost that resources for our future.
Nuestra dieta ha sido nuestras plantas, nuestras semillas, nuestras frutas. Nuestro reto es conservar las semillas criollas. De no ser así, es muy difícil que las comunidades sobrevivan.
Y al verme tan solo y triste cual ojo al viento, quisiera llorar, quisiera morir de sentimiento.
Itanoní es una puerta en las para tener acceso al conocimiento del mundo de los maíces de los pueblos abuelos.
Estas las clásicas. Aquí traigo 8 clásicas.
Que en México las tortillerías tradicionales están desapareciendo. Estoy ofreciendo trabajar con ellos para crearles el mercado que ellos necesitan.
El maíz que nos sobra le vendemos al restaurante Itanoní. Se vuelve uno famoso, pues. Eso, sí, por el maíz, pues.
Este tesoro solamente se puede conservar reproduciéndolo.
मेरा नाम सुमन खलखो है और मैं रांची झारखंड की रहने वाली हूँ। बेटी हूँ, मैंने पली बढ़ी हूँ। बाबा विकलांग है तो उनको जब मैं छोटी थी हम तो अपने जो दादा दादी है वो तो बगल घर की एक दादी थी जो अंधी थी, वो देख नहीं पाती थी, तो उनसे हमको ज्ञान मिला। हमारे पास बहुत बीज हो गए, उनको हम कहे कि माँ को बीज बचाना उनको कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं था, उनको चुपके से लाते थे। मेरी माँ को पता नहीं चलता था कि वो बीज लाई है या तो लोग रासायनिक खाद के बारे में बताते थे कि ऐसा खाद डालने से खेती अच्छा होता है, पौधा अच्छा बनता है, ऐसे बोल के। पहले तो मेरे भैया ने लोगों को देखते थे कि वो लोग केमिकल खेती कर रहे हैं, तो उनसे कि जब मेरे भैया ने बोले कि केमिकल करेंगे तो था कि नहीं केमिकल करना नहीं है। बोले तो वो मानने के लिए तैयार नहीं थे कि उनसे नहीं होगा खेती। हम लोग को भी कर्ज में डूबना पड़ेगा। मैंने दिल तक अंदर से चोट लगा था। मेरे बड़े बाबा लगते थे, बैंक से लोन लिए थे, बीज खरीद के खेत में डाले। बारिश अच्छी नहीं हुई तो उनका फसल नहीं हुआ तो उनको उनका दिमाग काम करने नहीं लगा, एकदम पूरा पागल की तरह हो गया। उसके बाद जब वो केमिकल मैंने जो दवा लाए थे सब्जी में डालने के लिए, उन्हीं दवा को पी के सुसाइड कर लिए। जानकारी मिला तो हमको बहुत बुरा असर पड़ा। हम अपने उनको जब वैसा देखे तो हम अपने भैया के बारे में सोचने लगे।
मेरा पूंजी नहीं है तो हम लोग जो कम पूंजी है, हाइब्रिड वाला बीजा है तो रखने से वो घुन लग जाता है, वो दोबारा होता है। आज ये हाइब्रिड वाला है दोबारा नहीं होता है।
We have lost 270,000 farmers to suicide.
Pioneer DuPont and Dow Chemical, they have all that acreage leased. All the way up from the mountains, all the way down to the ocean. And this is where all the experimentation goes on. This is the dust that's blowing the fields. It blows over the cliff and into our homes. And we breathe this stuff. The neighborhood is filled with people who have passed away of some form of cancer. So many people back here have died. My wife, she got breast cancer. She almost died. We just could not gamble with her life. She had to leave. Then I started it getting worse and worse. I would gasp for air. If I stay here much longer, I might die. I have to move. I'm getting weaker and weaker, and I can feel it. That's the warning sign for me.
These chemical corporations occupy lands that are considered very sacred to Native Hawaiians. Our land, our aina, and everything that comes from it, that's our ancestor. As a Native Hawaiian, it's a disgrace to our culture. There really will be nothing left for our children if no one was willing to speak up.
The future of Hawaii is all at stake. Everything I love is being threatened. I'm fighting for the whole island. Say something or die. 6,000 people there out of the love of their heart for our children, for our land, for our ocean.
I met with the chemical companies. They would say, no, we're not experimenting with pesticides. They tell me this is safe, there's nothing wrong with this stuff. And could you tell me what you're spraying? And they refused to tell me. The more these companies would lie to me, I had to do something. And that's when we started piecing Bill 2491 together to get disclosure.
Could any of you disclose to me the amount of general use pesticides that you use on an annual basis? With all due respect, I asked you an hour ago if you would tell me today how much general use pesticides you're using, and you said no with your silence.
I would say that I don't think I would want to comply with the bill as is.
My second son here, Ha'akamana'o, was born with an extremely rare heart defect. But because our son was dying, his heart unable to pump his own blood through his body, and endured 9 surgeries during those months. All I know is that while pregnant, I took every precaution to grow a healthy baby inside of me. By not passing this bill, you're telling me I don't have the right to know. If I had known, I would have chosen not to expose my unborn child as I innocently worked day in and day out in Kekaha.
I seem a little emotional because it really hits home to me. Speaking on behalf of unborn son, my son has a condition called gastroschisis. Basically, the stomach's on the outside. I don't blame anybody, but I just want to stop the poisoning. Bring a baby into the world that's got to get cut open right away. Consider this, that something might be wrong on this island. Okay? Something might be wrong. Children don't deserve this.
The trust is gone for these companies. The trust is gone. And I don't know how they're going to gain the trust back other than backing this bill and working with the communities, you know what I mean? And, you know, like I said before, it's time to put human health over corporate wealth.
They are suing the county of Kauai for the right to spray poisons next to schools. And these are the largest companies in the world. So we're going to have a huge battle.
OMG, GMO, people have a right to know. OMG, GMO, people have a right to know. OMG, GMO.
This is a historic battle. They're fighting for a profit. We're fighting for our lives. And those who fight for their lives, do not give up. Do not let down. Never say no.
Because we need to know. GMO has got to go.
No one said, give me GM food. Anyway, this has never been voted for by any community anywhere in the world. The reason Americans are being condemned to eat GM food is they've been denied the right to know.
64 countries around the world have some form of labeling of genetically engineered foods. The United States does not. Monsanto and the other companies are so frightened of labeling because once people have a choice, why would they choose a product that only offers them risks and no benefits?
I started Navdanya in 1987. I named it Navdanya, which means 9 seeds, but it also means the new gift. Wow, look at the birds going above you. Took inspiration from Gandhi Gandhi had dealt with the smaller imperialism of the British by taking out the spinning wheel. And he said, we will be free, we will spin our own cloth. And I said, we will save our own seed. The seed will be the spinning wheel of our times.
I heard these companies talk about patenting seed and genetically
We will
modifying.
refuse to obey laws that force us to accept GMOs and patents.
We have launched a campaign this year for a global alliance for seed freedom.
We need to protect the diversity, integrity, and freedom of life. Give seed its own freedom so that we as humans can have our freedom. And the work we do through Navdanya is to encourage farmers to grow enough for themselves, to bring respect back for their own seed, for their own farming. Our community seed banks are both the networks of farmers as well as the distribution network for moving seed wherever it's needed. More than 110 community seed banks have started. If there's a drought, getting drought-resistant seed. If there's a flood, getting flood-resistant seed. So these are seeds of hope. These are seeds that do not lock you into debt. And we are training the young people to spread seed saving because that freedom is tied up to our duty to the planet and our duty to the future.
हमको नवधान्य का पता तो स्कूल वंदना शिवा ने ये जैविक खेती के बारे में बता रहे थे और मुझे यहाँ आके कि हम अपना खेती को और कैसे बेहतर कर सके और जो उपज होगी वो हमारे लिए फायदेमंद होगी, हमारे जीवन के लिए स्वस्थ होगी.
For the farmer, we're going to honor the land and make it beautiful. And you can only make it beautiful through biodiversity. And only when we have the seeds of biodiversity will the landscape be beautiful.
You know, there's that Garth Brooks song, The Rodeo. Well, for me, the rodeo is going out into the wilderness and finding things to eat. It's like an obsession that never ends. Big, huge treasure hunt. When people say, how do we feed a hungry world? What about the wild things?
The devil's ball.
We don't want to get the sap.
Holy moly! This is a male plant! So this baby is pollinating somebody else. Let's see who it's pollinating. Look at him, man. Look at the little watermelon. Look at him. I've never seen him before.
I've been waiting to get these seeds for probably 15 years. And you would not imagine that this would grow out in the desert.
If we get just a few of these growing in a few places, it won't be but a couple years, and the people themselves will be able to start growing their own. So a seed in this case is extremely precious. And what does that mean? It's worth as much as gold.
You get up there and rub. I'm going to hold this tight. You get up there and rub it.
Get up.
You let the wind catch it.
Okay, here, we're getting them out, though. Okay, good.
Canthosicyos nadinianus is called the Gemsbach cucumber, and these are one of the treasures of the desert.
It should be edible. Now, if they're green, what I've heard is they're going to burn the crap out of your mouth. You going to try the first one? Do we have a spoon?
Oh, look at that.
Okay. Sweet?
What's it taste like?
Tastes terrible.
Does it taste bad?
Yeah.
So they're cooking them. That gets rid of the hotness in it. Oh, you got to poke a hole in them so they don't explode. Look at that. They're the original botanists, aren't they? I'm nothing. All I'm doing is learning it in books and wanting to find out about it, but they're knowing everything about it. It's bigger than he said, probably. There's a group effort digging up this monster.
It's incredible.
This is the incredible marama bean. Produces tubers up to 500 pounds. About 10 pounds? It is a future potential food crop unlike any other on the planet. I mean, how many other beans do you know produce a giant sweet potato? How many other produce a giant cashew macadamia-sized nut? This is an amazing plant. The people in the Kalahari depend upon this for their very survival. It doesn't need water for 3 years and it can still survive. You can go back eons and be like a hunter walking out here when he was just surviving with the elements. Strange thing to get impressed with, but I'm impressed. We do have a beautiful world, and something like this to me, it's just a marvel of the planet we live on.
Дорогой дальною, да ночью лунною, да песней той, что вдалеке звенят. I don't suppose anyone's up for the merry dwarfs, probably, eh?
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't know.
Enough of us.
I don't know. Okay. Hi-ho, cried the merry dwarfs. And then bump, bump. That's a critter. The timing is all important. It's like with seed saving. Time is a big deal. Ready? Let's hear it now. Hi-ho, cried the merry dwarfs. Dump, dump. It's off to the woods we bump are. We'd like to stay, but time is short. Hi-ho, cried the merry dwarfs.
Short.
It's off to the woods we are. Magnificent! Magnificent! That was it! You did it! Right off like that. Woo! Okay. Saving seeds is a gas. Seed saving is all about sex. And humans are all obsessed with sex, even if it's rutabaga sex. Even Cyrus, I'm going to come fix your plumbing. I'm sure we know for a fact you can hire someone to make love to your spouse, for example, and they'll sure as hell do a better job than you will. But no, somehow we feel like, nah, I really want to do that myself. Some things are just too important. This is right up there with making love to your spouse. So this is the office where all my stuff is stored. I don't know quite how many thousands of varieties, samples of seeds are here. So this is a horrible mess. This is about as good as it gets here. I live in chaos, and this room is one of the more chaotic parts of the house. All these boxes on top are all waiting to get refiled. I think I put away. I never can seem to get enough. I've tried to level off in recent years to something that I can handle. Rutabagas. Over here. Sometimes thought that if the house were to catch on fire and I had to do something very, very quickly, hopefully I would first make sure that all the family were safely out. But somehow I'm deep inside, I'm afraid that I would probably rush in here, smash out the windows and start throwing boxes of seeds out to the firefighters and hope they understood what to do with them, don't turn the hoses on them or something. I sweat a lot over the things that I lose. No one in the future can save them. They'll already be lost. I see no end in sight, except when I'm cremated. That concerns me sometimes. Who will take this over?
ये सब करने में हमको तो 6 साल पूरा लग गया और पूरा खेत में खेती लगाना है। मैंने वही निर्णय लिया और मेरा भैया को अपना बीज बचाना चाहिए। ये मेरे भैया मान गए तो हमको ये तो खुशी की बात हुई। तो हमको बहुत ही अच्छा लगा कि कि मेरे परिवार तो कम से कम जैविक खेती के लिए राजी हो गए। कि हम वहाँ जाएंगे और इसको जो सीखे उनको मैं पूरे अपना क्षेत्र में फैलाना चाहती हूँ।
लेकिन ये टोटी को पी के देखिए 10-15 रुपया का। उसी में सुमन का नेतृत्व उभर के आया और ये अपने एक हमसे नीचे ये भी अपने समाज का अगुवाई करने के लिए आगे आई है।
कोई किसान के पास जो हमारे पास जो बीज है वो बीज दूसरे किसान के अपने एक दूसरे को हम अपना बीज मदद कर सकते हैं।
Jack and the Beanstalk is a true story. The idea we all laughed at that he would trade his pig or his cow or whatever for a handful of beans is like, what a silly thing is that? But if you think about the potential of the self-replicating system that's in your hand and what it could potentially produce, we should all trade in everything we have for a handful of beans. One of our fairy tales is actually trying to teach us something that's unbelievably important. I woke up one night about 3 o'clock in the morning. I sat up straight in my bed and I went, oh, seed school. We got to teach this stuff. We got to open up a space and teach them what we know to having this resilient fabric again. I'm going back to the 10,000-year-old way of doing it. To have everybody everywhere saving and storing and sharing their own seeds regionally, the way it always has been done.
When we teach about seeds, we rewrite ourselves back into that evolutionary dance between plants and humans. We initiate a whole new generation of people who care for life. Since the seed's asking to be spoken for again. As a Mohawk woman, seeds embody this sense of hope for the future that we could create something different, a new paradigm for our children. We have to make that promise to the corn that we will nourish ourselves from it, but we will also give back.
All these seeds, they're going to move his new house. We have I will say, the blessing of the Great Spirit, the Mother Earth, all the protectors and the spirits from this land. And they say, you guys, they have to finish this seed bank. We beginning to making the impact in our pueblo, in our community, stone by stone or mud by mud, we have this building. All the seeds, they have memory. They're happy in this moment. The seed bank, it represents life.
Those young men and women are carrying on the tradition of our community. And I see the young people happy. And the corn is happy. The birds are happy. Because that's who we are.
We grow a really great variety of squash. Archaeologists dug down and they came upon a clay ball that was about this big. And in that clay ball, they shook it and they heard something. They cracked it open and it was a squash seed. They carbon dated it 800 years old. And I always laugh because I always say white guys get to name things all the time. So I'm going to name this one. And I call it Gete Okosaman, which means really cool old squash.
It's time for us to take back that mana. It's so important to get back to our food source. Take back that ability to self-sustain as our ancestors once did.
This food forest here could feed hundreds of people. We could be the self-sustainable epicenter of the world, and there's no reason we can't be. We can grow any fruit or vegetable on these islands. We planted 21 banana trees today. As a team, as a family, you can accomplish anything.
And we went from this much diversity, took 10,000 years to create, down to this pinch with only 4% left, and we're right here, right? And so we're waking up. We're gonna do this. It's knowing that in each individual seed is the potential to change it all back.
There's a story